To him, we have Franklin Odhiambo, who is an ICT and education expert. And it's very timely because you do remember in 2013 when the Jubilee government took office back then, they talked about the digital era, and especially when it came to schools. And well, that did not go down quite well as it had been planned. But away from that, we still have hopes in the ICT because that is the future of education even in developed countries and also in developing country, Kenya not being an exception. That is the discussion that we are going to be having. And let me throw the first question to you, Eric. We have around 2 weeks for schools to reopen. The government talking about, yes, we have some challenges here and there, but we are trying to smoothen. And we are a lot of challenges in terms of classes, in terms of infrastructure. 2 weeks, we will be somewhere?
Well, thank you so much. Challenges notwithstanding, this is, as our former Minister of Education said, is a train that has left the station. And I think the government is intent enough to make sure that it happens, those challenges notwithstanding. For many schools, I know there will be several teething problems. There'll be a lot of unpreparedness. But as any new thing comes, we expect all these teething problems to be dealt with through the Ministry of Education, the stakeholders, the parents, and even the managers of the schools. If we go way back to when 844 was being introduced, those who are there then can tell you for a fact that it wasn't a walk in the park. There was a lot, agriculture, art and craft, music, etc., that were being introduced, and they were alien. Just like as we speak now, there are so many things being introduced in CBC, and the challenges will be there. But as I said, it's a train that has left the station. We'll have to deal with the challenges. We
need to do everything that we have and anything that we can, including painting the train, right?
Yes.
Because it has already left the station.
Yes, of
There's no turning back. And before I let you, Frank, do your opening remarks, because ICT, I can comfortably say here on live television is that I cleared high school from 4 without even seeing my first computer. We didn't even have a computer, the whole school, let alone the head teacher himself. But now things have changed. We will be touching on that because you're an ICT specialist as well. But as I had alluded to earlier, is that our editor, Caroline Kamau, is keeping a keen eye on the National Police Training College, Kiganjo, where today it's a big day for over 2,800 recruits. And Kamau, I can see you, and also I can see a lot of Kenyans, family, relatives, just coming there to say hats out to the police officers. Kamau?
Njue, thank you so much for joining us. We're live from the Kiganjo Police Training College. Been here since 6 a.m. in the morning for a very, very important day today as the police... Again, a very important date. A very important day today as police recruit constables graduate after 9 months of rigorous and intensive training here. The doors opened in the morning at 6 o'clock, and Kenyans have been streaming in from all parts of the country. If my cameraman can just show you right now, the pictures that are live on your screen are pictures of some of the recruits who will be graduating today, donned in their ceremonial uniform. Behind them are Kenyans, family who have come in to support from various parts of the country. People are here all the way from Lamu, some are here from Garissa. Every part of this country is well represented. I was able to interact with a few of the family members who are here, and the mood here is ecstatic. People are excited that after a long 9 grueling months that their kins, that's their daughters and their sons, are finally graduating, and after today they join the National Police service. Some 2,881 recruit police constables will be graduating today. Of this, 2,338 are men, 543 are female. All of this graduating to join the National Police Service. Certainly a very important day for the National Police Service. It's a new cohort as they usher in a new cohort into the force, into the service. And of course, it's also very important for the country because the graduation comes at a time when you have been reporting cases of insecurity in certain parts of the country, from Laikipia, in Baringo, in Lamu. Certainly, this team comes in to bolster security in the country. The chief guest of this occasion will be none other than His Excellency the President, Dr. William Ruto. He's supposed to make his way here at around 10:30 a.m. The CS for Interior, Kithure Kindiki, is also going to be here. The IG, Japheth Kome, will be here. His deputy will also be here. And that is when officially this function will kick off. Of course, we'll be waiting to hear what the President says in regards to security in the country and what the government is doing. Continuously, the President and the Ministry of Interior has assured Kenyans that they are on top of things. They're going to make sure that all Kenyans remain secure, and of course they diminish and get rid of the gangs that have been terrorizing Kenyans in various parts of the country. So everybody is readying themselves really for the function to officially start. I can see the Kenya Police Band. If my cameraman can just pan to them, they're getting ready for the occasion. I think in about 30 minutes from now, the President should be making his way here. So Troy, I think I'll leave you with those pictures and we shall link up as soon as the function officially kicks off. I'm Caroline Kamau, again live from the Kiganjo Police Training College. Back to you, Njue.
Much Caro Kamau, live from Kiganjo in Nyeri County, and as you have seen, smart and colorful are hardly suitable words to describe our men and women in blue. And as you can see, they're just polishing up the final touches to ensure that when the Commander-in-Chief and also the President of the Republic of Kenya, flanked by the Commissioner and also by the Minister for Interior, or the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, we will be crossing over to Kiganjo a little bit later. But for now, let's come back here in the studio and continue with our discussion. But also to note is that today 2,800 recruits, 2,881 to be specific, we will be graduating today, tomorrow, and on Thursday the head of state will also be officiating another pass-out parade at the Embakasi, and you can keep it sure and you can keep it KBC that we will be taking you there. Of course, we have seen even family and friends being allowed. You do remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, these are some of the scenes that you could not have gotten. But away from that, let's come back to our topic of discussion. Just in case you joined us, in the next 2 weeks, we do expect that the schools will be reopening. And more specifically, this is a unique year because it's the first time that we are having the junior secondary amidst a myriad of challenges. And I have two education experts here to put things into perspective. And just before we crossed over to Kiganjo, I was coming to you, Frank, and we were talking about technology. And as things may be, as we speak, my daughter has a tablet right now. I cleared high school without even seeing the first computer. But now we have to incorporate that and inculcate that even in our very small or minute ways. But either a phone, a tablet, a computer, we just have to incorporate that. Kindly touch on that.
Things are changing, and as we speak, everything in the world is going technology. And what I can say is, if I remember before Corona, the statistics were showing that 98% of Kenyans were using computers and laptops. But after Corona came, the percentage raised from 98 to 158. That means that everyone went digital. People were forced to work from home, offices, schools, and everyone had to have a tablet or a mobile phone. So that means that where we are heading to, our our community has to be educated.
And still on the same, to narrow it down, is that we are having a lot of, looking at Kenya in the digital space and in matters education, we rank highly in Africa in terms of internet connectivity and matters of gadgets. And even the president talked about in the next couple of months, we will be starting to manufacture our own smart gadgets. And looking at the education sector, how we are going to be also inculcating technology, looking at some of the things that we failed to do. In 2013, we started out, we had some laptops for our kids, but that project did not really rise to the occasion. What are some of the loopholes that we are supposed to avoid as we transit to the new education system?
First of all, I'll say CBC is about knowledge, is about skills, and is about attitude. So I believe when the president brought that idea of having laptops in schools, I think our attitude wasn't right, and because we didn't have the right manpower to take the project through. That's why you found out that there are a lot of laptops idling in the computer rooms with no teachers or with no tutors.
Simply with no power.
Yeah, with no power, simply because we didn't take it serious and our attitude toward that project wasn't right. So if only we can come up with skilled personnel who have the right attitude and who are positive, then I think it can work. I can tell you that because I'm the founder of Frankie's Foundation, and we are empowering vulnerable youths and women through ICT. And if you come to our foundation, you'll find that the people we work with have the right attitude, they are positive, they are skilled, and they are willing to change the community. So if we have that spirit, then I believe we can go far.
And I like how you first of all put it, is that COVID-19 did teach us a good and a bad lesson as well. Because a good lesson because now we have more or less doing almost everything digitally. But let's hear from Eric. If we look at the 2 weeks that we have, yes, the government it's a process, just as you say, it is a train. It's not a jet that in the next couple of minutes we'll be getting there. It's going to take a while. There are so many challenges that were posed, and during the public participation forums, a number of issues were raised. Let us look at a private institution. You come from a private institution that do not benefit from the NGCDF. Yes. And I remember the Deputy President talking about even schools and the MPs need to chip in so that we may actualize the laboratory and at least the infrastructure. But the schools have to be compliant. And remember, for the private schools, they have to fork that infrastructure from their own pockets. I'd like you to comment on that.
Thank you so much. We want education that is not biased. The government, I think, is focused on this, whereby I teach in a private school. My students should not be advantaged more than the others. So when policies are being put in place, the policies should be geared towards helping every Kenyan child. Now, when we started the tablet things, there was an assembly at Kenyatta University and JKUAT, whereby the will was there from the government. I don't know where the rain started beating us, but now that we are here, every effort should be made so that even a child in Turkana, a child in Samburu, a child in Maralal is able to get the gadget, is able to access electricity in their schools, so that the teachers should also embrace technology for imparting this knowledge. I could be advantaged from Kinderville because we have the gadgets. We are building ICT centers. We are doing smart boards. What about the child in the other side of the world? So my take, it might be controversial or not so keen to be eaten up by other people, but as we embrace CBC, let us implement what can be done by Kenyans as we copy what other people do, but only pick what is viable, what can take us forward fast. Because the wholesome implementation of CBC, the recommendations that you're getting and the requirements are kind of mountainous. I look at a school that does not have classrooms, doesn't have a latrine, doesn't have a staff room. But now you look at the requirements for a junior secondary school that is to be domiciled in the same primary school. We need to put things which are suitable for the Kenyan setup, then implement them bit by bit until we get there. Otherwise, the willpower is what we need, the right attitude, the spirit from all stakeholders. We should not just be looking at the negatives. We should look at the positives, embrace CBC. We are talking of millions of children.
And Eric, you're still on the same. You've talked that you would want a position where both the private and the public do get more or less like the same resources, because it's one curriculum and it's more or less on competency of the student more than what the station or the infrastructure of the school is. But the government is talking about 7 billion in the next, let's say, 2 weeks. And when private institutions talk about maybe the government should also chip in to help them, because there are primary schools where we've talked about the junior secondary to be domiciled in the primary school. That is new infrastructure.
Yes.
Looking at the economy, the country itself, the economy is not doing very well, and also you are a witness that also private schools are not doing quite well as they used to do previously. So wouldn't that be adding perhaps another pressure to the government to try and help you as private institutions, and yet in the public institutions we are not yet there?
Oh, thank you. Now, what I said is the bottlenecks that you're going to meet should be picked so that it is what we can implement fast. When the bar is so high, for example, you talk of acreage, the number of classrooms, the number of personnel to handle these things, do we have the capacity? So let's start by the capacity that every school can meet as we move to greater heights that we yearn to achieve. That's what I mean.
Okay. And Frank, I will still pick it from where he's talked about the capacity. We were told that the government intends to employ at least 30,000 teachers. Of course, educationists like Mwalimu here will tell you that that's just a drop in the ocean.
Yes.
And talking about capacity, in the 30,000, we don't know how many teachers will be a tech service to ensure that in the digital literacy as well goes hand in hand with everything else that teachers and the students are learning. Still on the same, how many ICT trained teachers will we be having? And still on capacity as well. We are looking at a junior secondary. This is something that we are introducing for the first time. So we do not know, we are not quite sure, is it going to be done by still the same teachers where the junior secondary schools have been domiciled in primary schools, or do we get secondary school teachers as well?
I think the government has to come up with a special program to handle ICT program in primary and in junior secondary. I'm saying that because ICT is wide, and remember there's ICT software and there's ICT hardware. And if I remember very well, is that those people who go to the universities to do ICT as a course, they specialize in it. So I think the government has to come in and train these teachers as specialists in ICT, so that at least they don't mix up these two things. Remember, it is a tech job that requires a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and also a lot of positive attitude, because it is cumbersome. I remember when I was in school, we were told if you don't have patience, then you're in a wrong class. Yeah, so the government has to come in. These 30,000 teachers, there's a percentage that the government has to take them and train them specially on ICT. And we are ready as private stakeholder to help, because we have the experience, we have the knowledge, and we've been there.
Yes.
Yeah, so we are there to support.
Mwalimu, and still on capacity, because you're there, you know exactly how it goes. But now for the junior secondary, it's a new concept that we are introducing in the country and also in our curriculum. So who exactly do we mandate to teach our children? Is there teachers from the junior, because we don't have teachers from junior secondary, do we have either secondary school teachers to teach our junior secondary students, or do we just upgrade our primary school teachers to teach our junior secondary school students?
Oh, thank you. Now, before I take that, may I just add, when we talk about ICT, sometimes we kind of miss the point. The CBC would like us to integrate the concepts that are imparted in different learning areas with ICT. Then there is also ICT as a subject. We have certain areas of the unit or the design which will deal with robotics or coding. You see, that is basically a technical area that you wouldn't just pick any Harry, Tom and Dick to teach. So as my colleague is saying, empowerment is required. Who will do the coding? Who will teach robotics? Who will teach the ICT itself? But these other teachers also require empowerment to do integration. I could be teaching agriculture, but I integrate it with ICT. I could be doing any other subject, but I need to integrate it. Now, coming to capacity, especially who teaches junior secondary, let it not escape our minds that these are learners that are just coming from grade 5 to grade 6. Now they're going to grade 7. The content could have changed a little bit, but the age growth and the content extent that they are supposed to cover can well be handled by some of the teachers who are at primary level and at secondary level. So what needs to be done, and I think it was in the recommendation by the panel, that we look at your qualification. You could be in primary teaching, but what is your qualification level? How did you perform in the subject areas of interest? So that we put teachers where they rightfully fit. There's this old talk that when you teach primary, you can teach all subjects, not anymore. Why private schools really excel is that there's specialization. You don't take a teacher and tell them teach all subjects. So this is where CBC is taking us, whereby a teacher will only teach the subject that they did very well at secondary and college level, a subject that they have a lot of interest in, and then lastly, the government will have to take us through a lot of refresher courses. When 844 was coming, people used to go back to Kagumo TTC, Kenya Science TTC, Kamwenja TTC to just refreshen and sharpen the so that you are in tandem with what you're supposed to do in class. So a lot of relearning will have to take place.
But we don't have the time, Eric.
We'll have to start. Then during school holidays, people will be going for those courses. It is very important. Private schools can call trainers to do in-house training. For example, I can tell you for a fact that so many private schools have invited experts who are doing in-house training for them. I'm talking for the entire country. I'm talking for the entire group of Kenyan children. They need to have their teachers taken for refresher courses. The capacity building has to be done in different learning areas so that any teacher who had upgraded should now be taken through special training in this learning area that they have interest in. Yes.
And I'll still be with you on this, Eric. We haven't had, we knew very well once we started CBC, we knew very well we'll get to a point where we'll be having junior secondary. But the government was not quite clear on exactly how to go about it in terms of what you're talking about, the capacity and the teachers themselves. Have we been caught flat-footed?
This is a Kenyan problem.
If we start training now, it's something that perhaps could have started a couple of years back, so that when we are here now at the junior secondary, we will be looking at either matters infrastructure and ICT, you know, and more labs, and maybe making our schools even far much better. We should be talking about training when the train, as you said, has left the station.
The problem with our country is one. We are a last-minute country. Take, for example, voter registration. What happens? People will go last minute. Register your telephone line. People will go last. Even when we were returning the notes so that we get the new Kenyan notes, what happened? People will always go last minute. Now, I can tell you for a fact that KICD did work on the books, the course materials, way back. The books were approved. The books were ready. We only needed to carry out now capacity building by training teachers so that we go through so many things. But I also want to look back and look at our country. Probably we were entering an election year period. So there was that sit back and wait. Will I still be there or will I be going? But that was unfortunate, because planning of a country should be as if we'll live forever. I don't build a national airport for me for a few days. I don't do expressway for me. The expressway will outlive me. So education planning should be done with hundreds of years in mind.
A process.
So I know we are late, especially the public schools and some private schools. A lot of training need to be done, has not been done. And for those who are charged with this, a lot of capacity building must be done even within those few weeks of opening. Let us know, how do we approach these different learning areas?
And let me go to Frank, because you're an ICT guru. Looking at 2013, when the President Uhuru Kenyatta back then and now the President William Ruto took over office on the digital platform, it evoked some excitement in the country, but that a couple of months and years, the excitement just fizzled out. But looking at where we were in 2013, 10 years ago, now we're in 2023, a lot has changed. We have better internet service, we have cable, we have cheaper gadgets. So in comparison to where we were, because some people are skeptical, this digitization didn't quite pick up well in 2013. What is going to make it pick up now after 10 years? But a lot has changed. Infrastructure, power, a lot of schools have power now. We have the cheaper gadgets. We also have fiber in our country.
Yeah, thank you. It's true. So many things has changed since, because first I want to say Kenyans, we are sharp, and hiyo sharpness imefanya tuna embrace vitu haraka, especially when it comes to technology. Especially the youths. The youths wako na ile njaa ya kutaka kujua what is in this technology. Yeah. So far I can say that we have moved, and we are still open. The only thing that we need to work on is we need to start moving very fast by now transferring this knowledge back to the young people who are the youths and who are in school. For example, what will make us grow faster, let's say if we start computer labs in high schools or in primary. A good example is when we were in school, we didn't have these skills. So unamaliza high school and then you don't know where to go. After that, you don't know where to start from. So if we take this, if we come together as a country and then we start computer labs in high schools, for example, and then we train these students on how to have skills on how to repair, let's say for example, these gadgets, on how to use computers and others. So by the time someone will be finishing high school, at least atakuwa na knowledge ya kufanya kitu fulani. Yeah, so at the end of the day utapata hawata gamble sana, and people will have more interest into technology, into ICT, and then we'll keep on growing as a country. Another example is also we go to primary and we introduce computer studies, whereby these pupils learn how to use computers, how to clean. You know, also cleaning is also cleaning a laptop. How do I say it? Is a skill, because you don't just clean a laptop by using water. There's special liquids that you use to clean a laptop. So we train them on how to clean computers, on how to type, on how to use emails, how to send emails. You know, by the time they're arriving at a later stage in high schools, they have the knowledge and the skills. By the time they get this other level 1 skill of now basic repairs, like replacing keyboards, replacing screens, they have the knowledge, and they can start their own small ventures when they're at home or when they're in colleges. Yeah. So that, with that journey, at the end of the day, I'm sure Kenya will keep moving forward into technology. And
because we are looking at technology also for our little ones, we will be looking at how to protect them from cyber crime. That's quite something. In as much as we are digitizing everything, there's a lot of challenges as well that we are facing as a country, and also as a continent, because we have had a lot of cyber attacks from a number of countries, which could cascade even to our little ones, whatever they are watching now, because we will be doing almost everything is being done using technology. Let's look at the infrastructure, Mwalimu, because there are some schools, just as you said, that at least your school is privileged more than some schools, and that has always been the case even in public and private schools earlier on during the KC, during the 844 system. But a good example, let's look at the SGR or even the Nairobi Expressway. Those are PPPs. So these kind of partnerships, if we do them, because looking at a country like Japan and China, the education system is quite complex, far much than any other African country. But they have invested largely here in Africa in so many things. Maybe these partnerships can help us, because we have challenges in infrastructure, more classes, more teachers. Can these public-private partnership assist us in our CBC? Or is it a way to go? Is it something that we should explore?
Yeah, you're right. The partnership between public and private is long overdue. We've got very, very strong companies in this country, and where they want to put their money is hardly in education. We want a situation whereby if we want a nation that will stand a test of time, we need to give them proper education. As a teacher, there's something I always admire around Nairobi, and I always think and talk to myself. If you walk around Nairobi, the public schools, city council schools, you'll see the vision of those who set them up in terms of infrastructure. But they've been dilapidated because the partnership that you're talking about is not there. So the countries, the pertinent donors that we have, it's high time that we have model schools in all our 47 counties, so that the things we want to make big all throughout the country should start small within the county itself. Well, let us have a model school where the CBC is fully implemented by the government and the private partners. That way we can now move from one point to another and spread the gospel in a proper way. But if we don't have, like we do have, Center of Excellence, a very brilliant idea that was set up, and we thought this will take us to the next level, but it died a natural death. A Center of Excellence was just borrowing from CBC. whereby besides normal learning, our pupils were to be taken through sports, through art, through music, all things that would build a person, so that we don't just say, if I don't pass maths, then my life is gone. So the partnership should come back in full swing. Every way should be explored so that we get proper centers of excellence in all the 47 counties, and the focus should be on CBC. Does it have everything that we require? Does it have the personnel? We can even be deliberate to have the specialists in all these centers before we spread the gospel out to other places.
Well said, Eric. And just to remind you, is that we are keeping a keen eye on the National Police College pass-out parade that is expected to be officiated or presided over by President William Ruto as one of the ways to ensure that the country is secure. And as you can see from the videos on your screen, is that our men and women in blue are ready so that they may take their oath of office. We're talking about 2,881 recruits who will be taking their oath of office today. And other than that, again, the president will be at it tomorrow and on Thursday, where he is also expected to officiate 2 more parades, just as a way of underscoring that he is indeed keeping a keen eye on matters of security. Remember, the recruits have been there for 9 months and have been taught a lot. Just coming a day after former Chief Justice David Maraga was sworn in as the chairman of the task force that will be looking at matters police officers and also prison officers. We'll be keeping a keen eye, and we'll be crossing over to Kiganjo in Njue County in a bit. But for the live discussion that we have, I have Eric and Frank, who are education experts, and it's just exactly 2 weeks to reopening of the schools. Government has talked about 7 billion to help in books and materials here and there, but at the end of the day, we are having for the first time a transition that is to junior secondary, and a lot of challenges have been there for the last couple of years. And also, as we are staring down at a couple of days to start the junior secondary, we still have some of these challenges, and the government is talking about the process. And just as Eric talked about, a train that is quite moving quite slow, but slowly but surely. Let me come to you, Frank. I've talked about we are doing everything digital and we need to protect our little ones. But before we protect them, there are some that are not even in schools that have electricity. Let's have a look at the northern frontier, the former northeastern province. We have insecurity, poor internet connectivity, lack of teachers. We have lack of power. Those are some of the challenges, and remember that in the next couple of days we will be expecting to be having students in those schools.
Yeah, I know it's a big challenge, and you know, there are some things that affects us as a community. Sometimes the best thing we can do is just to hope. We hope that the government will stretch their hand and remember people from the northern community. We hope that the government will try as much as possible to empower the communities themselves. You know, it is hard. It is hard, especially because of security issues. And we've been seeing that most teachers from these other regions, they feel scared or terrified to go and teach to to those communities because of insecurities. So I think the best thing is to pray that the government come in and empowers the community itself, so that the community can empower themselves, can empower themselves among themselves. Yeah, so that they take let's say, for example, if it is to have teachers from northern community, we take specialists there, they train the teachers there to become the specialists in the region, so that at least they can retain there, and you know, wanajuana wenyewe kwa wenyewe, so kidogo itapunguza insecurities. Matters about electricity, We just hope that the government is stretched to hands, put electricity in the classroom so that they can learn. Because at the end of the day, these computers needs power. At the end of the day, all these things needs manpower. So we keep hoping that watafikiwa with time, and we keep praying that with time things will be better. Well said. The Northern Frontier also needs power and manpower as well. Indeed, we are due for a fast break at about 8 minutes to 11. With two education experts, we are putting into perspective the issue of CBC. Remember, a 42-man task force was gazetted in September of last year, actually 30th of September. The head of state gave them a clear mandate to go to every corner of the republic and also engage teachers, learners, stakeholders in the education sector so that we may have a smooth transition to the CBC, bearing in mind that this is the year that we will be having our juniors take the first year of junior secondary. Let's have that break, then we'll be right back.
You today. This isn't like you at all. This isn't your first rejection. Why are you so beaten down today? Hurry up and go home. That's a direct order. Geez, stop looking.
That's a different guy from that of last week?
You get a new job and I get a new boyfriend. It's only fitting. So are you done wasting my time?
There's more to it. Read this here.
This guy came out of nowhere and sat down with me. And not only that, he's handsome.
The guy sitting with you is Harvey, babe.
Excuse me?
That's Harvey sitting with you.
I plan to spend more time with you tonight, but I guess we'll have to meet another time.
Jenny? You still look the same, but act differently.
Fool over here, Fabiola. Who gave you those flowers?
I'm not done yet. You will go when I tell you to.
Fabiola, please receive this ring as a symbol of our strong commitment.
You know what, Fabiola? I think it would be better if I don't come back. Why don't you go back to your party? If you don't go back...
And if I don't go back, what?
Let go of me! You don't know who you're backing up against! Back here! Is that all you have, you loser? Your girlfriend hits harder! Your girlfriend hits harder than you! You'll pay for this, you loser!
Going 100 on the highway. I ain't taking no calls on my struggles in the rearview mirror. Sing together, play together. Forget me. Nothing they can do to stop this abuse. Sins of the Father are visited from all in a never-ending circle.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Welcome back to KBC News Check. We are looking at matters education and to be specific on the CBC. Now, the government has talked about spending 160 billion on grade 6 transition, talking about building 24,000 classrooms. And also the government talked about each and every school will cost... we'll have to the president directed that each primary school is added an extra class and a laboratory. And looking at what we were talking about, there's a question that I had posed to Frank in terms of some of the challenges that we are having. And during the break, we were talking about some of the misplaced priorities. And we talked about Kenya being the last minute, because we knew we had this CBC and it was going to be transiting to something else at one point or the other. And we always have this each and every year. So each and every year is a new challenge. I would like you to touch on that.
Yeah, thank you. Why training was not done is a big question.
And actually it came up when the public participation forums came about. Parents asking, why didn't you engage each and every stakeholder before we did this? But again, it's a train that has already left the station.
So maybe we have now to deal with the cure, not prevention. Because we failed totally to prevent. Now we have to cure the disease. And much as we said earlier on, it is worth repeating that training or refresher courses must be done to the teachers so that they are in tandem with what goes on. Now, we talked about being a last-minute nation. The authors, the publishing firms, the publishing houses, before any book is authored, they normally take the authors through training. And I can tell you for a fact that when we were preparing to write or author grade 7 books, I write books myself, we were taken through training. We understood what is in this curriculum for grade 7 so that you are able to translate it to what the learner can understand and take part in. Now, it was at that very time that I think the teachers should have also been trained. Today, as we speak, the designs for grade 8 are out. We are thinking of the problems of joining junior secondary in grade 7. Grade 8 designs are out. And what goes on is that many publishing houses will get experts who will train their authors so that they understand what is in these designs before they embark on writing. Now, I really feel that it is also the opportune time for teachers who will later teach these subjects to be taken through this training. They need to understand what is in the syllabus, what is in the design, what do you need to do to impart the skills that are there, the competences that are needed for the learners.
And to you, Frank, looking at late last year, I think it was in August, before elections, the government rolled out and launched a computer coding and literacy program, which is supposed to also be infused in the CBC, and it will be the first time. I remember the president back then talked about it is the first time in Africa an African country has been able to do this. This is quite something that will be able to boost us, and especially when we talk about CBC education. I would like you to touch on that and shed more light on the computer launching coding. We're talking about our students, and we talk about these big words, these jargons. It kind of puts everybody off hook.
Yeah, like I said earlier, ICT is wide. And in ICT, there's what we call the software part of ICT, and there's hardware part of ICT. Now, coding is in the software part of ICT. Yeah, so coding as a training, it's not that bad. It's good, okay? But I'm looking at a point whereby we should embrace something that, at the end of the day, our students or our people, after the training, they can earn something easily. You know, right now, we are talking of hands-on, something that at the end of the day, you can survive. Right now, if you look around, you'll see that there are a lot of youths who are educated, but they don't have hands-on skills, and that is the problem. So, if I was asked, I would suggest that we focus on ICT hardware, whereby most youths can survive on themselves. For example, in the studio here, everyone owns a laptop. Everyone owns a mobile phone, just like an hospital. These things, they crash every day. These things, they die every day. These things, they get fault every day. So at the end of the day, they need services. Okay? Unlike coding, whereby you will wait for a contract. Unlike coding, whereby you will sit and wait for an opportunity to come. But when you have hands-on skills, maybe on repair or maybe on servicing, you can survive. For example, if we take Form 4 students and train them on how to install Windows, how to, when a machine is slow, how to rectify the slowness. Maybe the keyboard is not working, how to replace the keyboard.
Is this the same system that we are seeing in videos, and especially YouTube videos of learners in Asia and in specific in Japan and in China, doing some things that we expect graduates to be doing here in Kenya?
Exactly. And I can tell you, from our workshop, we get graduates who have done computer science coming to us asking, how can I do this? How can I do that? And at the end of the day, you find out this graduate has been there for 4 years training on ICT theory. And that is where our curriculum is failing us, because we focus so much on theory and we forget to focus on the skills. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is, if we focus on hands-on, our youths are going to survive. Our youths are going to live. Because these skills you are given, no one can take it from you. You will live with them as long as you are alive. You can start your own small shop. You can advertise your skills on Facebook, okay? And you'll get jobs. Look, for example, to install an antivirus, it takes you only 30 seconds and you earn, okay? That is something that if you're given for free, it will help you. Okay? Look, for example, something like installing Windows. If it takes you only 1 hour to install Windows, you can earn from it 2,000, 3,000 without a hassle. Okay? So if we have these skills, if we have these basic skills with us, with our youths, with our students, we are going to be on a better place.
And we'll be looking at, there's a question that I had posed earlier on. I think we overlooked it on the cyber security, and especially when it comes to education. We've seen a lot of cyber security firms and even corporations which mint millions from companies here in Kenya. Now we're talking about each and every school which should be digitized. And the moment that we talk about internet, in as good as it brings, it also brings some things that we should protect our children from. But as you marinate on that, let me come to Mwalimu. The 42-member task force, of course, it came up with a lot of recommendations. And you, as a teacher and also as a parent, there are some of the things that you could see that a layman like me in the education sector cannot see. Which are some of those that need to be rectified earlier on, even before we talk about any form of transition?
One basic thing is the personnel, whereby there is confusion. Will teachers come from secondary school back to teach at junior secondary school, or will the ones in primary school be upgraded to teach? They need to make it very clear, because given the time frame that we have, we don't want doubts. as far as where we are coming from and going is concerned. The second thing, and to me this is big, if I attended the task force meetings, I would have said, we talk about laboratory. This is an elephant when you talk about a laboratory, and any investor will tell you what it takes to fit a laboratory. You need those pipes for the gas, you need proper drainage for the sinks, etc. Long time we used to have science equipment scheme. The government should get the scheme so that equipment is put in a board or a box and given out to all the primary schools, so that without my set of maybe a room called laboratory, I can still use this table, carry out my experiments, let the leaders, the children do their work using this small box of equipment without necessarily having a building called a laboratory that is fitted. I may ask you for a fact. There are so many public secondary schools, day secondary schools, which do not have laboratory. Let us be honest.
Yeah.
But today we are talking about almost 26,000 primary schools, public primary schools, that should have a laboratory. So we need to go back to the basics. Science equipment scheme, or the STEM, we get a box, put the necessary equipment in it, and distribute to all schools in the Republic. We used Bunsen burners, but also we have canisters with gas that can be used for heating process. We don't need to set the Bunsen burners and the piping for the gas and everything. We can still use a bucket instead of a sink for the water and a drainage and everything.
You're talking about quite practical things that can be done at an affordable cost.
Without talking of multi-billions. So we changed Kenya Science to a university, yet Kenya Science was playing a very big role in bridging the diploma science teachers and primary science teachers by bringing down the requisite equipment for carrying out experiments within the classroom. Long time ago, we used to test acids and bases. Later, it was removed from the syllabus, and it is back. We used to have litmus papers just put in that box. We used to have ways of heating, test tubes, etc., packed together. It's like having a mobile laboratory. And much as we are opening soon, the government should think very fast how to equip. It's like putting equipment in a first aid kit. So may I call it our integrated science and technology first aid kit to be supplied to all the schools.
Oh, that's an interesting one. And because each and every school is supposed to be having at least one laboratory.
Yes, please.
Whether it is there or it's not yet,
the practicals must be done.
The practicals have to be done.
Yes.
Let's go to the cyber world with our tech savvy here. Frank, we're talking about our children, and we have to ensure that all these devices have internet. In the same way that internet is bringing a whole new world of ideas and skills. In the same internet that we have a lot of cyber crime, and we also have cyber bullying. We have a lot of negative coming from the same internet. As parents, as guardians, as teachers, we cannot always be there with our kids to ensure that they have, or they are getting the right information that they should. I've seen my daughter is she's even smarter than I am when it comes to matters tech. So you might even be thinking that you're protecting your kids, but they are 2-3 steps ahead of you. How do we mitigate this, and especially when it comes to education? Because at home, maybe we can do 2-3 things. We are having a lot of cyber companies in the country and also in the region, and especially in most countries that have fiber cable and have a lot of tech companies. But when it comes to school, it's a whole new different game altogether.
Yeah, sure. Primarily, there are restrictions of internet when it comes to age. As parents, there are some training we need to go, whereby we are trained on how to restrict our internet, so that our children do not surpass and go to some other unnecessary websites. At schools, we also need to take our teachers and also train them on how have a discussion with our students. Sometimes tunaambiwa kuzuia ni njema kuliko kutibu. Just have a discussion and open. Sometimes back in high school, we had a program called Straight Talk. And Straight Talk really helped us as youths, because we were sitting with teachers and we used to talk straight matters, sex, violence and everything, bila kuficha. And it really helped us, especially me, because I knew a lot of things that I couldn't know. So we need to come up with programs in school whereby we sit together with our students and tell them, as much as we have internet and it's of benefit to us, these are the positive side of internet and these are the negative side of internet. So
but at the end of the day, there are some students who will listen to that, there are others who will not listen to that. Maybe there is a way that we can be able to limit exactly what comes in, and especially when it comes to schools?
Yes, like I was saying, you see, there's a way, as experts, there's a way we can limit the internet, whereby students may not access other websites, or they may not access these sites that they're not required to access. But you see, at the end of the day, they will not be with you 24/7. There are cybers outside there, which have no restrictions. So as much as we are limiting them from accessing this website, it's also good to tell them that as much as you want to go to these other sites, know that it is not good for your health. It is not beneficial to your journey. Okay, so I think we just have to integrate all this program. We tell them, we limit them, but at the end of the day, when they are free, they can do it. So we just have a special counseling and guiding training whereby they're told on the benefits of not doing this. Yeah, of course, there are some youths who will just do it. That's life.
Yeah. And Mwalimu, looking at, there's something that you mentioned which I feel we should also be looking at in terms of the teacher training. And you've mentioned some of the institutions like Kenya Science, back then Kenya Science Teachers Training College, but they're not doing that right now. And we haven't had any communique from the Ministry of Education on how these people are going to be trained. Again, I will go back to something that we've talked about in terms of partnerships. We have institutions who can partner with us as a country to help us better our education sector and our teachers as well, so that as we are moving together, we also need to move with our teachers as well.
Yes. The experts of CBC, I want to call them, those who started the insight of CBC earlier.
The crafters.
Yes, crafters. They are those who are entrenched in it, and they become the bearers of all the things that we require. So what happens is that we need to restructure. How is the training done? KICD has quite a number of experts, but I think the number is still not sufficient to cover the whole country. Whether you're going to put teachers in one particular central place to undergo the training is another big question. So, as hard as it is, we cannot hide our heads in the sand and assume that all is well. Training and capacity building has to be done. How is the question? When is another question. Yeah, but knowing that we are starting school soon, we are time barred and we have to move with speed to make sure that teachers are trained. Yeah. That's one thing that is.
And thank you so much, Mwalimu. And still on your screen, as you can see, our police officers who are supposed to be taking oath of office in the next couple of minutes, they are making their final drills. Remember, the President William Ruto will be there to officially preside over that function. And from the sequence of events I can see here is that they're just more entertaining the crowd there and making sure that everything is in speak and span. When the president arrives, he's supposed to be received by the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Interior and National Administration, Professor Kithure Kindiki, and the Principal Secretary for Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, Dr. Raymond Omolo, and also the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Japheth Kome. After that, we will be expecting that there's some drills that these new recruits, 2,881, will be having there. Remember, their family, friends, relatives are already there, and there are millions who are watching on KBC as we are live from Kiganjo. We will be crossing over to Kiganjo as soon as the official program begins, which should be beginning any moment from now. But just in case you joined us, this is KBC News Check, and we are looking at matters CBC with just 2 weeks to reopening of the schools. Indeed, each and every Kenyan can attest that the CBC has met a lot of challenges, but hey, it's a new education system altogether. But this time round, it's quite different because we are expecting our first batch of our junior secondary to be in schools, and the government has a number of directives, beginning by the first one that the president made and started, and also named a 42-member committee, of which we are expecting that the recommendations, which include recommendations by parents, by teachers, by education stakeholders, and even by kids themselves who are doing the CBC, will be factored in. Well, not all of them could be factored in, but I'm quite sure each and every one that is supposed to be attended to, the government says it is doing everything that it can. And you're talking about also capacity building in terms of commercialization and research and innovation. These are some of the things, Mwalimu, that are inculcated in the CBC, because we want our holistic person, and just like Frank said, we want to start it to the point that even before the student is done with his education, he or she can be able to make a few coins as well.
Yes, we have financial literacy embedded in CBC right way from grade 3, whereby some of the things they do, the teachers or the learning facilitators need to tell them that you can make a coin or two through this. So by and large, CBC is very good. Some parents will tell you that of late their children can make their beds, they can clean their environment, they can cook, they can mend their clothes when they are torn, and quite a number of things. But as Franklin said, we should not give certain skills which cannot sustain somebody for the rest of his life. When you come to agriculture, that can be self-sustaining. When you take over 4 or 5 million people and train them how to mend their clothes, but you're hoping that they'll survive on that, then they won't, because everybody else will have known how to mend their clothes. So most of the things we want to focus on to make people have self-employment, self-empowerment should be so deliberate. He spoke about repair of computers, replacing broken parts, repairing slow gadgets. This will be everywhere, and the experts will not be as many. When it comes to now particular subject like art, I'm so passionate about art because I know there are millions of people who earn a living through art, especially performing art. There are artists who earn a living through drawing. But it should not just be done for the sake of it. I want to believe by the time a child is leaving grade 8, he must be showing some signs of being a perfect artist if the foundation was laid in the right way. By the time a child is leaving grade 8, if he's somebody who can perform on stage, you can tell, can sing, can play musical instruments, can dance. All these things are in CBC, and we need to do them the right way. The only bit again that leaves us teachers wondering is swimming. There are so many swimming skills that are to be taught in the CBC design. But then you start thinking that there are certain places without lakes, without rivers, without swimming pool. How will you teach somebody to become a swimmer? So some of such skills should be optional. Let us have somebody who is yearning to become an athlete, a swimmer. Somebody who wants to play baseball. Somebody who wants to play, there's one called frisbee. And a host of different sports that are in these CBC designs. They are meant to empower and let the learners be self-sufficient with time from what they learn through school. But we need to be so deliberate so that don't teach everybody everything, then we'll turn around and get all artists, then who will be buying from who? If everybody is an Olympic swimmer, then again, it can't work. So we need to be very deliberate. What do you want the learners to come out with? Do you want to produce dancers? Do you want to produce soccer players, netball players? How do you want to do it? So that we can be a force in sports the way we are in athletics. All these games.
All right. And we were going to be looking at sustainability of our education system, because more or less what we have is an hybrid system where we still have the 844 education system and we also have the CBC. How do we sustain and make sure that the transition is quite a smooth transition? But it's a good thing that you brought about how our kids could be tech savvy to the point that they could be even making their own money from all the learning that they have accumulated in the curriculum. And what are some of the places that we've seen in developed countries? Gaming has become a source of income. But since, just like in other countries, that you have to be 18 and over, for you to do a lot of gaming, the footballs, it's a whole industry, a multi-billion industry. Of course, you cannot do this without these gadgets themselves. But in our country, there are some of the opportunities that the youth can seize in technology and try to make a life of their own or some money for themselves as well.
Yeah, ICT is going to work in Kenya. You know why? Because every office you go today, there are computers. If you go to the hospital, there are computers. Like Mwalimu is saying, agriculture is big. In agriculture, you cannot work without computers because...
And I would want us to narrow it down to our education system. Other than even going to do a degree maybe in computers or IT, for our small ones, which could later on transit into something better.
Let me give an example of what we do as a foundation.
Okay.
As a foundation, we are empowering youths, vulnerable youths, women and single mothers on how to repair mobile phones, laptops, and we are also teaching them on how to survive having these basic skills. Now, our target group is very funny. We are targeting school dropouts, we are targeting Form 4 leavers, and we're also targeting people with disabilities. Now remember, not everybody who is going to school is passionate about education. That's why they are dropping. So where do we take them? If tukiwaachilia, hao ndio watakuja kutuibia. But as a foundation, we come in and take them and give them these skills. Okay? And I'm proud to say that through our program, we have changed lives of Mama Mboga, we have changed lives of house girls, and we have changed lives of vulnerable youths. How? Waliachiliwa na jamii, but we take them, we show them on how to repair mobile phones, how to replace screens. After 3 months, because our curriculum takes 3 months. After 3 months, they go out there, they start their own venture. In fact, if you come to our workshop today, you will be surprised that people who are attending to you, most of them are Form 4 leavers and Class 8 dropouts, and they are very good at what they are doing. We are in partnership with the Ministry of ICT. We are in partnership with the county government. Okay? And the good thing is, these are the people who go there and repair their gadgets comfortably, and they're earning. So I'm assuming if these people were not given this chance to have these skills, where could have they gone? Now, if we come back to the education system, if we train these Form 4s, let's say from Form 1 to Form 4, we give them these skills. By the time they'll be finishing Form 4, they'll be getting something. A good example is when I was some years back in high school, when I was still a student, my parents could not raise my school fees. And I went to a very low high school in Budalangi. I was a day scholar, and despite the fact the school fees was affordable, my parents couldn't afford, and I had to survive. I had to look for means of surviving so that I can pay my school fees. And how did I survive? I survived by getting a small camera. By then there were no digital cameras. There were those film cameras. So I got one. Then during free hours, I used to go to the dormitories. I used to go to the playfields. I take photos. I sell them at 30 shillings. That skill I was given by a photographer outside the school. And when I got those skills of taking snapshots, I got my own camera and I started taking snapshots in school. That 30 shillings, if you multiply by 200 students, helped me clear my school fees. So you understand. So I cleared my school fees when I was in school because of the skill I was given of photography.
Yeah, and I would want to sample Mwalimu's sentiments on the same, but exactly what you're doing, do they pay for themselves, or does the foundation foot that?
Because it is because we are dealing with vulnerable youths and women, it is a sponsored course. Yeah, because
I'm quite sure a lot of youth are listening to you right now and wonder exactly how can I benefit from such an incubation idea that you have.
Actually, as we speak right now, we are training 50 youths in partnership with IRC, International Rescue Committee, and the intake is still ongoing. So if there's any other youth outside there who is interested, they can come to our foundation, Frankie's Foundation, apply. It's free of charge. The training takes 3 months.
Where is the foundation?
The foundation is located at Norwich House, but our training center is at One Stop Center, because we have a partnership with the Nairobi County Government. So they've offered us a big training space whereby we train 50 students after every cohort. So the training is purely free. It takes 3 months. After 3 months, the good thing is we give you tools to start your own venture. Yes, free of charge.
And this is a very brilliant idea, and I'm just praying that some of these ideas were there back then, because I'm quite sure our country would be in a better position. Why I'm saying this is that when I was born in a place where there are a lot of engines, vehicles, posho mill, chainsaw. So I found myself, by the time I was clearing high school, I was able to open up a lot of these engines, and it's just by idea, letter hiyo spanner, ebu funga ile, letter K12, letter 14. So I found myself getting these skills such that there are some things that now I don't even need either a mechanic or an engineer to do for me, because I learned that. Mwalimu would like you to pick from there. This sort of incubation ideas is taking about 50 students. We could make it large scale and help a lot of Kenyans. In 1 minute.
I said every county needs an excellence center.
Just to hold the thought, Mwalimu. As you can see, they're just the final touches. The vehicle and the head of state has already arrived at Kiganjo there. And as you can see, each and everyone is now ready. We will be crossing over. Let's now cross over to Kiganjo. Thank you so much for joining us. We have been talking about matters education. Last word, Mwalimu, 30 seconds as the president.
Excellent centers in every county, whereby the incubation will be done at an early stage.
All right. Thank you, Mwalimu, and thank you, Frank. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. And thank you so much for watching. Let's now cross over to Kiganjo.